One of the things I believe, I don't just believe it, I know it, is pretty much everyone's superpower and kryptonite are exactly the same thing. My name is Trish Law. I'm a trauma-informed life coach, and I am here to help you remember who the fuck you are. Ooh, this is a big one. And I think this is really interesting because this brings in a lot of what we talked about paradox. Remember, everybody is both a piece of shit and the shit at exactly the same time. And you know you're ready to heal if you can actually be like, okay, fair enough. If that offends you, you're probably not ready. No offense. But when I'm working with my clients and I'm understanding kind of how they've navigated survival mode. Survival mode is kind of the place that we develop a personality. We develop ways of moving our energy. We develop an identity. We develop all this stuff. We also pick up a faulty belief system, which is kind of like an STD. Not to mention like a dodgy value system, which is typically taught to us. And so when we start healing, it's not so much about learning anything new. Most of healing is really based on unlearning and remembering. So that's why, like, if you resonate with my videos, it's not that I'm really teaching you anything, I'm just helping you remember stuff. So when I'm looking at my clients' trauma responses, I'm not only looking at how those trauma responses help them survive, but I'm also trying to figure out how, once they're healed a little bit more, how they're actually going to serve their soul. The definition of authentic power, this is from a book called The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav, is this: authentic power is when your personality comes to serve your soul. In other words, where your kryptonite begins to alchemize into your superpower. This is true of, I would say, every single client I've ever worked with. It's also true for me. This is why healing is essential if you want to be happy, you want to be authentic, and you want to manifest at a high level. And I could give you tons of examples, but I might as well just give you some of my own. For the majority of my life, I was deeply depressed and incredibly, incredibly anxious. I had chronic anxiety, chronic panic attacks. I was clearly neurodivergent. I did not understand what was happening in a traditional classroom. I could not hide. I never knew what was going on. And I was constantly in dysregulation, which was being categorized as a mental health issue, which, by the way, it wasn't. It was just nervous system dysfunction. But when you're 6 years old, you're 10 years old, and you're having panic attacks so bad that you get tetany in your hands, and it's 1987, nervous system dysfunction did not exist as language. It was like, you're fucking crazy. So we start to adapt. And there's a couple of things I picked up in my survival mode place that serve me every single day as a neurodivergent, dyslexic person that's highly sensitive. Number one, I can read people insanely well. I had to figure out how to do that. I had to assess them because I couldn't read literally. I adopted a quick wit and a crazy sense of humor. In other words, I figured out the way I could maybe not get found out in a classroom is I had to get that teacher to like me. I developed charm, personality, sense of humor, sarcasm, and the ability to assess situations very, very quickly so I could figure out how to navigate them. And that helped me survive being such a sensitive kid growing up. When I worked on my healing, fortunately, I did not get a personality transplant, but I stopped using these behaviors to protect myself and I started to apply them to my gift. So basically, many of the things that helped me survive those difficulties in my childhood are actually now paying my fucking bills. Everything that made me feel different and not good enough is exactly what allows me to empathize with people on a deep level and get the results I get for people. If I didn't have those experiences, I'd never be able to do that. My superpower and my kryptonite are the same thing, just like you. Just like you. This is true for everybody. There's no exceptions. You just have to be willing to look at yourself a little differently. Good news for you, that's what I do. So, what did you need to recruit within yourself? What did you need to develop to survive? And how does it actually serve and benefit you? Something to think about, right? I love you. I see you. Let's keep going. I'll see you tomorrow.